185milessouth.com.
Smash that Patreon button.
185 Miles South, a hardcore punk rock podcast.
Questions and answers. In this corner, the challenger, fighting out of the hard corner. From Orange County, California, a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and a red sash in hardcore history. It's the dean of no boozing and staying clean. It's Dave Itow! And his opponent, fighting out of the core corner, from parts unknown, weight unknown. Reason he didn't pick minor threat in the straight edge Super 7, unknown. It is the reigning, defending, undisputed 185 Miles South trivia champion of the world, Daniel, these questions are too easy, Sant!
All right, and the first question goes to Dave Itow. Itow, what is the greatest hardcore song of all time?
Wow. Just making them easy for me, huh, Zach?
Everyone should know this, dude. And if you don't know it, it's an easy pickup for the champ.
I mean, that's... Oh, you fucker.
This shows that Dave does not listen to the pod enough.
I know. A great disrespect. Great disrespect.
I apologize. I don't. I listen to, like, no podcast right now. I don't know. Anything off In My Eyes. I don't know.
That's actually a pretty good guess. But we go to Dan for the potential steal. Dan, what is the greatest hardcore song of all time?
It's Agnostic Front, Blind Justice, Into Last Warning.
A point to the champ, starting off strong. Okay, and Dan, now we go to you for your round number one. Dan, what is the worst punk song of all time?
Chicken Fucker by MDC.
Oh, we don't have a referee this week. We are not going to give it to you. We go to Dave Itow, who is not going to steal this. But Dave, what is the worst punk song of all time?
Anything by Pennywise?
Oh, minus point to Dave Itow for not acknowledging the greatness of the first Pennywise LP. The worst punk song of all time is MDC Chicken Squawk. No points that round.
Oh, Daniel was so close.
So close. Okay, we go to Itow for round number two. Itow, the No for an Answer 7-inch has 6 songs. How many are over 2 minutes?
None of them.
We go to Dan for the potential steal. Dan, the No for an Answer 7-inch has 6 songs. How many are over 2 minutes?
I'm going to say 1.
Point to the champ. 1 song over 2 minutes. The song About Face. How about
It's like,
that?
what is it, like 2:10?
It's probably 2:01. It's very close. It's very close. Okay, Dan, we go to you for your number 2. A 1980s Ian Mackay band and an Ignite song whose music video is where Bedge earned his nickname, the Stage Seal, share what name?
I'm trying to think of what that Ignite song is. That all I can see is Bedge stage ceiling flapping through my mind. You know, like in a sitcom where they're like stuck and there's just one thing stuck in their mind. I just see Bedge just stage ceiling right now. Okay, so Ian Mackay band.
The image of a stage seal is blocking out any Ian Mackay knowledge in your brain.
Which is disrespectful to my brain, but I'm going to say Embrace.
A point to the champ. Okay. And we go to Itow for round number 3. Itow, which Undertow 7-inch would later be used as the movie title of a flick that depicts straight-edge punk Brian Johansson as he returns to his hometown after college and becomes disturbed to discover that his straight-edge friends and the local punk rockers have become locked in a violent conflict with one another?
I mean, it's Oscar worthy, but it's The Edge of Quarrel.
A point to Itow. All right. Much respect. Dan, would you have gotten that?
Yes, I would. I would have said, oh my God, don't have Rollo come after you.
Obviously, Dan's watched it more than I have.
Okay. And we go to Dan, staying on Ian Mackay. Okay, Dan, this is all punishment for not taking Minor Threat in the Strange Super 7. Which number is greater? The number of songs on the Minor Threat discography CD, or the number of moons that orbit the planet Uranus?
Okay, so if we think about the songs on the discography are either 23 or 24.
Well, thankfully that wasn't the question.
True. Well, is Uranus still no, it's Pluto. That was planet adjacent these days, right?
That's right.
I'm going to say there's such a big number on the discography that the reason that you're asking this is that there's probably even more moons. I'm going with your anus.
Point to the champ. He don't miss, whether it comes to Minor Threat or space. What's up? Uranus has 27 moons, and the Minor Threat discography CD has 26 songs.
Ooh,
just how Dan likes it. It's one off. Literally a coin flip. Okay, Itow, true or false? The Slapshot song "Back on the Map" is 185 seconds.
Let's go true.
A point to Itow. All
there
right.
we go.
That rules.
Yep. And we go to Dan. Dan, true or false? The High Viz song "Choose to Lose" is 185 seconds.
False.
We go to Itow for the potential steal. Itow, true or false? The High Viz song "Choose to Lose" is 185 seconds.
I'm going to go with true.
A point to Dave Itow.
Right.
How about that?
Respect,
okay. And
respect to High Viz for, honoring
for the short songs.
Yep. It's a twofer, right? Short songs and an epic tribute. Much respect. Okay, we go back to Itow. Itow, Dr. No is the guitarist for the Bad Brains. Multiple choice. Is his real first name A, Gary, B, Larry, C, Barry, or D, Harry?
I'm going to say A, Gary.
Yes.
A point to Itow.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Am I leading right now?
Let's see here. It is tied, but going to Dan. So he has the potential advantage closing out round 5. Dan, SSD Control has a song about what adhesive that 80s punks liked sniffing?
Gotta stick together like glue.
A point to the champ. Okay, we go to Itow for round number 6. Itow, multiple choice. On the third song from the Cro-Mags debut LP Age of Quarrel, what do they say they're going to show you? Is it A, no remorse, B, no compassion, C, no mercy, or D, how vaccines in the future will be part of a sinister new world order agenda that involves trafficking microchips and or harmful chemicals aimed at controlling and harming populations?
I mean, D does sound true, but I'm going to say C.
A point to Dave Itow. All right. And we go to Dan for his round number 6. Dan, this is multiple choice as well. Although you probably don't need it, dude. You're the fucking champ, right? Okay. In the E-Town Concrete logo, what separates the E from the town? Is it A, a hyphen, B, a space, C, a period, or D, nothing?
We all know that is, if we were in England, we would say a full stop, but in America, we will say a period.
All right.
Period town.
Yes. Point to the champ. He knows what's up. And let's see here. Okay, we go to the subtotals. Daniel Sant has 6 points, and David Itow has 5 points. All right, champ, is it heads or tails?
Tails for Save the Whales.
It is tails. Would you prefer to go first or second, Dan?
I will go first. No, I'll go second.
Oh, come on. I had respect for you for a second.
Okay, Dan is taking the second 25 to life song. And so we go to Itow. How many points do you want to wager?
I got to go 1 because I know nothing about 25 to life.
Okay. Itow is only doing 1 point. And
how many people have ever got these right?
Dan has multiple times. Okay, Dan, how many do you want to wager?
I'll wager 2.
Okay. So setting us up for a potential tie. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Fuck it is. Okay, here we go.
We know the listeners like the tiebreak.
That's right. Okay. Well, I got some revenge if we hit the tiebreaker.
Oh,
okay, here we go.
Oh, Jesus.
Let's see here.
What? What? Okay.
All right, we go to Dave Itow. Here you go. Here is your 25 to life.
Do it again once more.
You got it.
I'm going to go with Your Generation's in My Way.
Fucking A, dude. It really does sound like that. But
yeah.
It is, kid, that's your opinion. Now get out of my way. Everyone, come up front, sing along. Dude.
I mean, I think my lyrics are better.
Maybe better. Okay. So Dave Itow drops a point, and he is down to 4. Okay, Dan, here you go. This is yours.
What?
I'm trying to shorten these. Here we go.
Give it to me 5 more times.
Here we go.
I know I say.
Fucking A, that's close too, dude. But he says, you ain't down with what I say. Yep.
There's not that many syllables. There's not that many syllables in that.
You ain't down with what I say. Everyone, come front, sing along. So good. So good.
Okay, he says, you ain't down with I say.
Dan, it's off short fuse. You should know this anyway. Come on.
I should.
Come on. Okay, so we go to the tiebreaker, and we will do the negative approach non-live songs off Total Recall. Dan,
okay.
You can go first.
I'm first?
Yep.
Okay. Nothing.
Okay, and it is checked off. Go ahead, Dave.
Tied down.
Okay, Dan.
Can't tell no one.
Dave.
Ready to fight?
Dan.
Evacuate.
Dave.
Oh, you already said nothing, huh?
Yeah.
He did.
Oh, damn it. Lost Cause?
Got it. Dan, back to you.
Did someone say ready? I'm not going to risk saying ready to fight because I think it's obvious, and I think it. Oh, pressure because we're doing the thing.
That's right. And no more asking if someone said this. You guys both.
No,
did
I didn't ask. I didn't. I stopped myself.
You got close to asking, so we're just going to call it a draw on that because Itow did ask as well. So no more.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
So no more of that. Okay, back to Itow.
Lost Cause.
You said that already.
I just said that.
So Daniel Sant, once again the champ. Much respect.
I said I repeated the same one twice.
Yep.
Hey, Dave, you're a lost cause.
I am.
Dave, you did great. So much respect. What's up, everyone? We are back and talking hardcore. Helping out. You know him. You love him. It is the best dressed man on the pod. It is Daniel Sant. What's up, Dan?
We love you, Reggie. We do.
Dan, congrats on another trivia win. How about that?
Itow brought it, but, got to slice him down, even though I respect him.
Dude, we gotta respect Itow for stepping up on short notice because there was a lot of cowardice in California when it came to challenging you this time around, huh?
That's true. There was a lot of I can't quite make it. You know what, though? I should have known. If you'd given me the mush you in the face part of short fuse, I would have got that.
Dude, I'm like running out of stuff, so I got to like cut it down. It might make it harder having the stuff be more truncated.
What we should do is start doing sentences from Rick from the NYHC doc and see if you can get those right.
Oh, no. That might be a little too personal. I do wanted to say, Dan, I think that Ben gave me 2 different excuses. So yesterday on the group chat, I think he said he was going to see a Jimi Hendrix cover band. That's why he couldn't do it.
A Jimi Hendrix, like something experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And then today he told me he was going to see some sort of Bengals interview. So 2 different excuses. And I don't know if either are real. He's running scared. Running scared, dude. We got to say that. And Don just said, no, I don't want none of that. So, there's that too. I mean, Don's been running for at least a year.
Yeah.
So yeah. Hey, it is what it is. Andy said he's got to go fight fires, so a respectable a back out, and we won't put anyone else on the spot. Okay, before we get into it, we gotta say we lost 2 people that have been involved in the pod. First off, Big Frank Harrison passed away last week, and he was a true friend of the podcast and someone that I texted with often, someone that's been on multiple times. And if you listen to this podcast, you understand how nerdy I like to make it. You know, we really dive into hardcore, and I try to ask some of the questions that, you know, maybe some people might be shy to ask, because I'm not super shy with this stuff because I'm in my 40s now. And I would ask Big Frank questions a lot. And stupid fucking questions. You know what I mean? Oh, how was it when Uniform Choice played this place at this time? And he never made me feel like a foo. He always received everything nicely. And he came on the pod and dropped a shit ton of knowledge for everyone. So, you know, one of the main reasons why I started this pod in the first place 5 years ago, or whatever, 5.5 years ago, whatever the fuck it is, was to get people's like words out there in their own voice. So I loved reading fanzines when I was younger, and I still do. But when you edit someone's words, everything changes, right? So like what you're reading when you read an interview it's what someone says, but it's through the filter of the editor. And the beauty of a podcast is you get to hear someone talk exactly the way they talk. And in most of the interviews, especially with the old school people, I do very minimal editing. Like when we do the Super Sevens and shit, we say and those things are, you know, pretty long. I cut them down a lot. I cut the gaps. But with like the interviews, I try my best to like kind of just let it breathe so you guys can get an idea of how people speak. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know what else to say except we loved Big Frank on this pod, and we're going to miss him immensely. And we appreciate everything he did for us and the podcast. Dan, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I saw him maybe like 5 days before the news came out at Gilman Street, where he traveled all the way over from Sacramento to come see the HopeCon. And that just shows you what a lifer. Like, that's an hour and a half, you know, plus drive on a Sunday night, came out to a show, was always at shows, always had nice words for anybody who was doing anything in, you know, doing anything positive, doing anything creative, always had nice words. And he, you know, has a ton of friends in tattooing that are mourning him, ton of friends in punk and hardcore. And when you look back at such a legendary life, how humble that was, acted out in, like, what, you know, he will be missed.
Yeah, I think I said on the Instagram post that I made, but like the word legend gets thrown around so much, and usually unnecessarily. You know, it'll be like some 26-year-old be like, that guy's a legend. It's like, what the fuck are we doing here? The word was made for people like Big Frank, like a legit ass fucking legend. And funny dude too. You know, like the last text conversation I had with him, the second to last one was him like trying to hit me to some band. He's like, oh, you got to check out this band. They put out this song, blah, blah, blah. It's sick. And then the record came out and he sent me a text. And he just says, never mind. Because he liked the single but didn't like the record, dude. So I love that shit.
Reviews are in.
Yep. Yeah. We all do that, right? We get excited about a song or something. We tell all our buddies, and then the record comes out and you feel totally burned and you're like, oh, I don't want to vouch for that anymore. So Big Frank, solid ass dude. We're going to miss him a lot. And, keep his memory alive because he's a fucking man. Also, Paul Cripple from Reagan Youth passed away in the last couple of weeks. And that was really strange because he was just on the podcast like maybe a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. And I had no idea that he was sick or anything, but it looks like from his Instagram and so forth, he'd been going through some stuff for a while. And that's very sad. Great guitarist, wrote one of the most classic hardcore punk records of all time, and was an absolute joy to be on the pod. Again, answered all my questions, and I think really opened up to like that period. And I think that like with some of these old school people, we have to respect how humble they are when they're willing to just entertain that I want to talk about like 4 years of their life that happened 40 years ago. That's pretty wild and kind of fucked up when you think about it, right? Like people live like fulfilling and rewarding lives and stuff. And here I am, some fucking asshole that's just like, all right, bro, tell me about what happened between 81 and 85. You know what I mean? So that's kind of a weird scenario, but much respect to the people that understand that, like, they were the building blocks of this music that a lot of us have shaped our lives with. And I'm just in debt to them, like the people that let me, put their story out and let me pick their brains on like the early era of this stuff, which I just love so much. Dan, you got anything on that?
Yeah. What I love about that kind of thing is that these people, in particular, the two that you are referencing right now, they understand the importance of what they did, but they don't big time themselves. And they're not like, well, why would you want to talk to me about that? They understand the gravity of the moves of the early punk and hardcore movement and what it means to other lifers, So I think that they're both, really blessed the pod by giving stories. And all I can say is, like, as I first got into punk, the Reagan Youth songs were given to me on a tape, and they mattered to me from pretty much day one of punk, like for me, especially after like I'd been given other things that were punk and hardcore adjacent, or punk and hardcore in general. The Reagan Youth was at the top of the thing. I mean, Over My Dead Body covered Reagan Youth, like on our split with Death Threat. Like, I love that guitar tone. I love the way Reagan Youth have sounded, and I love Paul's guitar playing, and may he rest in peace.
Yeah, that record sounds so good. For people that don't love 80s shit anymore, like I can tell from like when we do the 80s episodes, like they're not as popular as other stuff. And so that's pretty depressing. It is a goddamn crime because 80s hardcore is the best. But I would just say, like, if you're someone that thinks that 80s hardcore is like a rough listen because of like the sonic quality of it, the Reagan Youth record, the first one, they sound fabulous. So like they might be a nice starting point for dipping your toes in that old shit. And maybe you'll get the itch, you know what I mean? So that's it. R.I.P. Big Frank Harrison. R.I.P. Paul Cripple from Reagan Youth. Much respect. The pod is indebted to you guys. So yeah. Okay. Hard transition. It's fucking painful, like transitioning out of stuff like that. But we're going to talk about new stuff here. Dan, I want to go through a list of shout outs real quick before we dive into what we're going to talk about. Okay, first off, the Torina No Control 12-inch came out on Days Records this past Friday. It is fabulous. A great follow-up to their last one. I got it. Hopefully I got it in the mail this time. We're recording this a few days in advance. Okay, also, Golpe. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name, but they put out a new 7-inch on Beach Impediment. I think it might have come out digitally last year, but it came out on record now. I saw them a few weeks ago. They were absolutely fabulous live, and this 7-inch is a great follow-up to their LP that came out maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Berthold City, they put out an LP called Where Did We Go Wrong, came out on War Records. Gotta love that DIY shit. Andrew putting out his own stuff. Much respect. This is by far the best stuff they've ever done. It is awesome. So shout out to everyone in that band. We love you all.
It's really good.
Right on. The band Justify put out a EP called Run and Hide. Came out on Extinction Burst, which is a label that has been absolutely on fire this year. So respect to them and respect to that band. A band called Compulsion put out a split LP with Wrong War. This lands somewhere between Black Flag and Easy Action, the post-negative approach band. And it rips, dude. If you like that Greg Ginn style guitar shit. And this is a listener on the pod. And also one of the dudes in this band was in the band Life Set Struggle that Fields of Fire and In Control did a bunch of shows with in 2001 on the infamous tour where Fields of Fire never let us sleep in their crash pads or even out front in our van. But much respect to this band. This thing rips. Okay, Chopping Block. Seattle's hardcore EP. This thing rips. Youth Crew. Youth Crew might be coming back, dude. We're seeing signs of life. This is another one giving it a fighting chance. So much respect. Dismissed. Their 2024 demo. This thing sounds absolutely fabulous. I will touch on it a little bit later. A band called Yellow Cake put out a 7-inch called A Fragmented Truth. Came out on Total Peace Records. Excellent D-beat. It is on Bandcamp. It is not on Spotify, or we would be talking it. To the true punk bands out there, dude, just put the shit on fucking streaming everywhere. We want to hear your bands. Spread the glory of how good your band is. You can. It's silly to act like you're too punk to be on the streaming shit. Come on. Okay, Big Attitude, San Diego band, put out their self-titled first full length, following up a short demo. Very good follow-up. If you like the Ramones, you're gonna like Big Attitude. Final Resting Place. We got to talk one mosh record on here. They put out an EP called Prelude to Extinction. Came out on Days, and dude, I'm pretty burnt on like the death metal moshcore. I will not lie, but this thing has a shit ton of personality, and look no further than that snare tone to see what they're all about. This shit is pretty tight. And then finally, Punitive Damage. They put out a new single called Baptism of Fire. It is off their new 12-inch Hate Training. You can order that now on Convulse Records. They put out the LP of the year a couple years ago, and the new record is the shit. So handle business, order that. Okay, Dan, let's jump right in. The first thing we're going to talk is the band Hindsight. They put out their demo 2024, came out on Rebirth Records. They are from the Pennsylvania, New Jersey area. It is members of Shackled, Fool's Game, and Last Man Out. Thank you to Kevin Hare for that info. And yeah, dude, what do you think about this?
Okay, I'm going to say this in one simple statement. I fucking love this. Like, you say Youth Crew's coming back, and hey, here's Exhibit A. This is so good. The first song, Dying to Say, opens with 2 seconds of insane open gate noise. It almost sounds like insanely like fly swarming black metal for a second. It's just literally 2 seconds. And then it breaks into The Love of My Life. Straight edge hardcore in the vein of Straight Ahead and Stop and Think. Sorry, there's no and in Straight Ahead. And many of the Locking Out bands that, followed up, Stop and Think. So it's giving that kind of vibe. So that kind of like hard Youth Crew with like a groove. I would say a similar sound across the pond is Dynamite in London. It's giving you that kind of vibe. Hindsight hit us with 3 beyond solid hardcore bangers. The Youth Crew toms on the build on Dying to Say are just so chunky and sick. The recording and the backups are great. The sample before Something to Hide is brilliant. Tony Soprano raging on Christopher at his intervention. Like they plucked that as a sample, like as an Edge sample, and it's so fucking sick. Like when Zach first sent me this, I'm like, okay, now we're talking. I was just so psyched on it. And then on that same song, on the third song, Something to Hide. It does this sick build, and right before the mosh, it just gives you the hindsight straight edge, and then goes into it, and that just gives me all the Edge feels that I need. Like it just runs through, like when Popeye eats spinach, when something like that happens to me listening, and it's just scratching me exactly where I itch. Like my arms go out, my legs go out, they go boing, boing, and then X's just form onto my hands. It's just this weird thing. So thank you, Hindsight. And if I'm like kind of digging in on the vocals, they actually, and Zach, you listen to it again after I say this, they remind me of like Joseph from Tsunami if he sang for a hard youth crew band, instead of like, they're that same kind of delivery. Because Joseph like is singing he lets all the other guest vocalists do the kind of stuff, and he's just like yelling. That's what these vocals are like. It's super. I love this thing.
Yeah, it's sick because it's a natural yell that's pushed to the limit.
Yeah,
without making like a silly voice. So it's great, and that's how you get personality in your voice, right? If we all just yelled, everyone would sound different and it'd be pretty sick. Instead, everyone wants to do a silly voice and sound the same. So that is what it is, right? The Dynamite call out is good, like, because it is like a hard youth crew. That was another like good thing to say. They do win the Dynamite duel though, because no guest vocals. Epic fucking win, dude. So that's sick. This is 3 songs in under 4 minutes, and there's just a fury in this that's like pretty rare. Bands can write competent like youth crew or roots hardcore, like late 80s Rev records influenced hardcore, but like it's very hard to inject a fury into it. And that's what this band does so good. They're fucking fabulous, dude. I will say this does sound like a demo. And I hope that they don't ditch any of these songs just being on this. I would say when you do your next record, re-record all these songs, and I'll talk. I want to talk a little bit more about democore when we do the third record that we're going to talk about. So I'll jump into like quality then. Just in regards to the songs, Dan called out the first song, that Dying to Say, pretty perfectly. It does 2 snare hits and then goes into like an intense scissor beat. It's wild. It sounds fucking wild, and then it goes to the guitar break, and then we're into just a plain old fast verse with like the double time drum beat. Fucking perfect, dude. Perfect way to start a song, perfect way to start a demo. Just full on YOLO out the gate into some straight hard shit. Youth Crew Tom breakdown, and then not scared to tuck a vocal hook in. The end of it is catchy. We're out in 1 minute and 5 seconds. That is a straight up 10 out of 10 song, dude. You know what I mean? That is what is up. And if it had a little better recording, we're talking maybe one of the hardcore songs of the year. Okay, At Peace, the second song, starts with the bass and toms, and it speeds up, and that like vibe reminds me a little bit of the Instead song Live and Let Live, which I absolutely love. It goes into the mid-tempo banger of the 3-song demo, so hell yeah. And then the last song, Something to Hide, of course, the soprano sample is great, perfect choice. And then the guitarist, he almost does some melodic shit on the first riff. Don't, you know what I mean? Leave that on the chopping floor. Don't ruin this band doing some like melodic guitar shit, dude. You got really close to doing some bullshit, but thankfully you pulled it back, and on the verse when the drums are in, you didn't. And then like that harmonic guitar break though is absolutely fabulous. So that is so sick and so intense. And then into that up-tempo skank part is great. The second half of the mosh after like the big sing-along part or the mosh call out. It goes down to a nice bounce part. And this is fucking great, dude. I don't think that anything is going to beat that No Idols demo for the demo of the year. That thing is just like really untouchable. It's one of the greatest demos of the last 5 years. But this thing has a fighting chance. This is so fucking good. This is everything you want from a demo. Just like, okay, let me toss out 3 dope as fuck songs that leave you wanting more. That is a demo. This is a demonstration of the band Hindsight that leaves me wanting a 4th song tomorrow. Like I'm begging for a 4th Hindsight song tomorrow. You know what I mean? So epic fucking win here, dude. And
I might be voting for this one.
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
It's just got me hyped.
It's right there, dude. It is so good. Okay, let's go on to the next thing. We are going to talk the compilation 1C Unity 4. It came out on From Within Records. This is the 4th installment of this comp, and we're not going to give a full overview of it, but I thought we'd pull off some of our favorite tracks off this record. Dan, go ahead and toss out one of yours, and we'll see if I have it on my list too.
Okay. I would say my favorite song on the whole comp is by the band Terminator, and it's Washed Clean is the name of the song. I'd say, do you have that on yours?
I do.
Okay. Well, I'll give my little synopsis of it, and then you can kind of like round it out if you want.
Yep.
I think it's like hard NYHC style music, but through a 90s victory lens. Like there's equal parts Integ and equal parts Strife, but it's still, just straight up roots hardcore. It fucking destroys. It's so good. And the vocalist does an almost, even though it doesn't sound like this band, but in a vocal delivery sense, it's given a bit of mouthpiece, even though the vocals are harder than mouthpiece. Like that kind of call that Tim McMahon would do, like the calling, like passionately out vocal is present here on this song. I think it's an absolute smasher of a song. I really loved it. Like the comp in general has some good quality on it, but this one just stood head and shoulders above for me.
I think it's a great song, dude, and it's something that I normally wouldn't reach for because it's a song that's over 2 minutes and it's all mid tempo. But the recording on this thing is just absolutely fabulous, and yeah, it doesn't lose my attention at all. The guy, again, he's got great natural vocals, and this thing bangs. I'm trying to come up with a reference point that's not like, I think that if stuff sounds kind of hard and mid tempo and kind of modern, we always say, oh, there's like outburst in it. Maybe there's like some Maximum Penalty in this. I don't know. But yeah, it sounds epic. And honestly, that demo came out. I fucking wanted to like it because I love the color scheme so much. I was one of those foos that likes a football team because of the uniforms. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to like it and I didn't love it, dude. But yeah, this song is fucking sick.
Hard name too, though. Like an absolute hard name for a band.
And begging for samples, dude. Begging for. There's a million great ones. Don't overdo it. But when you come with like your favorite Terminator sample, it's gonna be sick, dude. Okay, Dan, what was your next one?
My next one was Blow Your Brains Out, Bleeding. So this band, did they win Album of the Year when they were up for it, or did they win second place?
Last year they came runner up to Stigmatism.
Because I loved them then, and I love this. So it's just straight up hard as fuck NYHC style. On this track, there's a tiny touch of Path of Resistance in the way it sounds to me, but that might only be me, to be honest. I prefer their recording on The Big Escape, the record that we gave the silver medal to, but this is just right there. It's only like 1 milligram less than, that that one just sounds a bit brighter. Maybe it was mastered a little bit better, and this suffers from kind of being on the comp where maybe it was the comp that was doing the mastering. I don't know. I'm not an audio engineer, obviously, but this still bangs to infinity. The singer, he has so much charisma, but in such a controlled, aggressive manner. And that sounds funny. Like, he's not all over the place like HR would be dancing all over things. There's just tiny elements on certain words and stuff that just show you, like, yeah, I'm fucking putting mega personality in this without ruining the song, without pulling focus. It's just like, same way a guitar player might do a flourish, there's just like a couple of vocal flourishes throughout that are so good. The pod always talks about Japanese, well, not always. The pod occasionally talks about Japanese hardcore, and it's I've done my due diligence to an extent, but it's still a little bit of a blind spot. But I'm glad I can be around in the moment with a band that is just top tier Nippon core for the ages. I love this song Bleeding, and I think it is an absolute real standout for the comp.
Yeah, you're into a Japanese hardcore band, but it's a Japanese band playing New York hardcore.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker.
This sounds almost like a totally different band than the LP from last year. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, because this still kicks ass, but it sounds totally different to me. And the recording is a lot rougher, but I don't think that's all. It just sounds meaner. So yeah, it's cool. If they go in this direction, that's absolutely cool. It's still good hardcore, sounds mean, short, fast, hard. Hey dude, sign me up. This is killer. What's your next one, Dan?
My next choice would be the song Pest by All for All. Again, another NYHC kind of vibe, but this one's giving more of that post Killing Time LP, where bands started to go into like little pockets of their own personality and giving a little bit more differential on the guitar work and stuff, and giving a little bit more kind of like unique riffage while still being like straight up hardcore. And this song has some really catchy parts, some really good vocals. I am interested in hearing more from this band. About this comp, it's like there's a lot of it is really good. There's stuff by I've left one band that we both love a lot for you to talk about, and maybe they would have been number one on my list if the recording had not sounded so trebly for me. But you know what band, because this is kind of like a lot of harder bands, what band I think would have fit on here really well would have been that band Last Wishes from Leeds. I think that would have been like a perfect band to have on this comp. But anyway, what were your choices?
Let's see here. I took the first song, Killing Frost, the Cross of Mourning. It's just a cool sounding band, and it's a good song to start it off with. This is members of Foreseen and Violent Spirit, and the No Echo article on them called them out as being Celtic Frosty. And it does have like kind of that ultra compressed Celtic Frost, Sheer Terror type guitar tone for sure. But I don't know. It's a cool fucking song. They sound unique. I guess they do itch a little bit of that Sheer Terror shit. If you're really looking for something that sounds like Just Can't Hate Enough, like solely sonically off like the guitar and shit, this is, I don't know. It sounds like it's influenced by that for sure. And yeah, this is a cool band, cool song. Got to call out Scarab, because Scarab don't miss, dude. Just like Dan Sant in trivia. I believe this is their 9th song, and they are now 9 for 9 and have the best good to bad song average currently in hardcore.
This past Friday, Scarab released 2 new songs, increasing their win-loss song record up to 11-0. They continue to maintain complete hardcore dominance. We now return to your regular scheduled programming.
So how about that? The band Collateral, I called out the song The Spectator. Awesome song. Scissor beat verses, catchy mid-tempo choruses, and then ending with like a skip mosh breakdown at the end. Kind of like Wall of Hate final mosh vibe. Let's see here. Last thing I wanted to call out was the band Instill, the song Back to Life. This is not a style of hardcore that I love. It's fast and overly melodic hardcore. But it does stand out because like this is like a white whale these days. Like no one's playing this style of music. And it seems like any band that comes out and starts playing this, like they just slip off the stick so fast and just start trying to sing and do their big one. So, yeah, this is sick. If the dudes from Instill listen to this podcast, or if their friends are listening to this, they should listen to the band Faded Gray, who does this style better than anyone. So yeah, have them check that out. And yeah, but this song is cool. And so for people that like fast, overly melodic shit, you got to check out Instill because they're the best band doing it right now that I can think of. So there's that. And it's funny because they do ask a question, or they propose something in the song. They say, maybe everything that dies someday comes back to life. Like that's a line in the song. And I just want to say, my man, have you ever heard of the carbon cycle? That's actually what happens in the world all the time. You know what I mean? Everything that dies does come back to life. It's the carbon cycle, my friend. So check that out. And the last thing is... Well,
I just want to know, did Rebirth Records put this out then?
Okay, that is One Scene Unity Volume 4. Came out on From Within Records, so get that and check it out on the streaming. There is a playlist for every episode, 185milessouth.com. Click that playlist link at the top of the page. And also, you can just find us on Spotify. It's there. Okay, last thing we're going to talk. Dan, I swear I wasn't planning on being Rebirth stands on this episode, but we're going to talk another Rebirth demo. The band is Steamroll. They put out Demo 24, came out on Rebirth Records. This is a band out of New York with members of Combust. I chose this one because I thought it was straight in your wheelhouse. It sounds like they are worshiping that early Locking Out stuff. It is straight edge as fuck. Did I deliver or not?
When am I getting my Rebirth Records tattoo? Because both of these releases are just fucking delivering for your boy. The best dressed man will be even best dressed in Steamroll hat and Hindsight shirt or hoodie. Plainly, this fucking rips. You know, it's more of that Locking Out, Warzone, Outburst, groove-laden, straight-up, roots, heavy, groovy, hard youth crew. Like, I can't say that this coming back as, like, potentially being a little bit of a trend, and especially coming out of people who've been used to playing much harder music, coming around to doing this, it allows them to tackle this kind of style with just I don't know, maybe they're even adding even more groove. I don't know. But, you know, that same thing, they have an intro, starts out with an intro, and then those feels get activated again. The Popeye goes straight up because they go, Steamroll straight ahead. And you know, I go boop, 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 and just start moshing. The songs on here are so great. There's lots of parts where it just drops to bass, and that sounds awesome. Like there's a bass only intro. There's two of the songs, the music drops out and just the bass goes for minor parts, and it just adds. It's just so good. It's such a nod to the past while still sounding great and sounding full of energy. Like, that's the thing, is like there's so much that you can miss in this style if you don't bring charisma and energy, and both, Steamroll bringing it, Hindsight brought it, like, absolutely love it. That Step in Line has such a sick ending coming out of a dope youth crew build-up. It'll make such an amazing pylon and sing-along part. Well, that's if kids can get through 7 miles of horseshoe that are just generally happening at shows these days. Please don't let that happen for Steamroll. Please don't let that happen, because Steamroll needs this pylon sing-along part. That's what this song is designed to bring. The last song, CAF, Crush All Frauds, is such a lyrical nod to the promise of Crush All Fakes. I fucking love it. And that part in the song where he goes, Steamroll! Oh my God, that is so ill. And then the song kind of dies off, and then they do like a Warzone tribute skit. The Warzone skit is like my favorite thing in the world. So this, because it is so tongue-in-cheek and having so fun, and the accents on it are so dialed up, I absolutely love it. And then it's like, they talk about, I just wrote the dopest dance part. And then the dance part they do is like essentially like a youth crew take on a beatdown part, which is a really interesting thing to hear, because they're still staying within their style, but the part is probably written for the other band, because it's like extremely like kind of a hard part, but it's done in a youth crew-esque manner, and it's great. I mean, chef's kiss to this demo. I love this band already. I haven't seen them. I cannot wait for them to play shows, and I hope they do come west.
Yeah, we got a shout out to them for having 2 intros. That's pretty sick. The first one is good, the New York City Triple X intro. That last one that comes after the Warzone skit tribute thing, it's funny because it's like, yo, I wrote the best riff of all time or some shit, and then they go into like, that's cool that you like it, Dan, but this is a fucking terrible like new metal riff.
That's what I was saying, is that it was like, not this style, but it was pushed through this style's filter, so it's really weird but interesting and funny.
It's just funny that, like, I love the bravado of like, we wrote the sickest riff, but then it just goes into like a fucking terrible riff that could have just been like lifted off watching like too many bands that played Woodstock 99. You know what I mean? Like,
well, maybe because they're saying they're going to start this with, I don't know, is it Jack that they say is out with the Steamroll Shorties?
I don't know.
Maybe Jack needs to be in the studio to stem this kind of line stepping.
Yeah, Jack needs to be like, dude, write a better riff. What the fuck are you doing? But yeah, this thing's sick. I chose it for Dan because he really likes the early Locking Out stuff. I've talked on the pod before. That stuff never really connected with me. Although I do love the Stop and Think demos and the Wrong Side LP. I absolutely love. And this, I think, lands a little more that way. Maybe like the Dump Truck demo or the Wrong Side LP. This band is at its best. Like, so that first song, Marked, I think is kind of whatever. But that song Steamroll and that song Crush All Frauds, the way they bounce in and out of like the fast to either the mid tempo or the bounce is fabulous. Especially the song Steamroll starts out like very Locking Out mid tempo, but the way it busts fast is great. And then the way it goes mid tempo and back to fast for just like a short little burst at the end is awesome. I think that a lot of hardcore bands, they think that like mosh parts are their only arsenal, right? So like they come up with whatever tempo they want to use as like the backbone of their song, whether it's like a mid tempo or a bounce or a fast or whatever. And it's like they're writing the song around the mosh part because they know that's what's going to get people moving. And I think that good songwriting, you want to have multiple things in your arsenal. And like on the song Steamroll, like they're dipping into that. They're like, if we go fast right here, it's going to make the song sound intense. So they do a little blast into fast at the end. Like that's fucking great. You know what I mean? If it was a less competent songwriter, I think you would do like, you wouldn't go back fast. You would just do your mid-tempo fast, mid-tempo out, right? But like they're actually writing a good song here. And that last song, the same thing, the Crush All Frauds, bouncing back and forth. The Step in Line, that's a straight fast song. Again, I think they're best when they mix the two styles the most. Although that bouncy harmonic breakdown in Step in Line is very nice. I like the singer's voice a lot. It's very dry. It kind of reminds me of the singer of the Florida Powerhouse. And yeah, this is a demo that I really enjoyed. I mostly chose it for Dan, but I've listened to it a handful of times and I enjoyed it as well. One thing I do just want to call out, because we weren't planning on necessarily covering two demos, especially two demos from the same label for this, but these were a couple of things that I think we would like the most this month. There have been some people like kind of pining for like a rebirth of demo core, which I think is interesting. And I think that it's mostly like a backlash to all the corporate bullshit going on in hardcore right now. Or I get bullshit, whether you think that is or not, just the influx of like outside interest, whether it's news sites that don't give a fuck normally and obviously don't give a fuck when you read what they actually write, or corporate sponsorships that would not be giving a fuck if hardcore wasn't having a moment right now. I think that people wanting demo core, like they just want something where it's like, I just want a band to put out a demo with no prospects of like ever doing anything with your band. And I've honestly never loved that. I want people to put their heart and soul into a band. And so I think that there is like a happy medium somewhere there. But I just want to say for demos, I think that both these are fabulous. And like these bands, I hope they aren't like kind of demo core bands that are just going to do a demo and break up, because I think that they both have a shot to be two of the best bands in hardcore. Really, I was thinking about the band Collateral a lot, because like that demo they put out last year was awesome. And then this year they leveled up with that 7-inch, the We Still Know 7-inch, which might be EP of the year. It sounds so perfect for a fast roots hardcore record. And I just think like these two bands, if they went in there to that same studio and dude, probably get a couple of guys from Collateral to come and fucking produce this shit. You know what I mean? Be in the room or borrow their amps or whatever the fuck. Like if these two bands got recordings that sounded like that Collateral 7-inch from this year, these are two of the best records of the year, straight up. Especially that Hindsight demo. So I just want to pay some respects to that dude that did the Collateral 7-inch. His name's Anthony Burke, and I think he's in Syracuse. And his spot is called Burke's Dungeon. So yeah, if I got that wrong, someone call me out. I'll correct it. But that Collateral sounds so fucking good. And when I hear bands like this, where it's like the songs are there, but like they're obviously demo recordings, I just want them to go somewhere that can like harness that aggression, make it sound better, but not lose any of that energy. And like that is like the spot right now, because the way he transitioned Collateral from like an intense demo band to like sounding absolutely fabulous on the 7-inch is amazing. And I want to see these bands that kind of sound like that to go there and get that recording. Dan, final thoughts on any of this stuff?
I do, it's funny that you mentioned Dump Truck, because the Steamroll and Dump Truck, like Steamroller and Dump Truck, like kind of nod is there, I'm really glad you served these up for me. I really just had like an awesome like week and a half listening to these like over and over again, punishing my coworkers, because like at the shop I was just, all right, it's my turn. Okay, here comes Steamroll. They're like, oh, Wu-Tang again and again. That's right. Yeah. Really great. And it is nice to have these things like coming back up, and this kind of stuff, like it's really weird. Like people have been younger people have been asking me about Main Strike and things like that from backgrounds that I never thought kind of would. And I'm loving that. It's creating a nice little like bristle around, oh, you're looking down that path. Cool. I can't wait to see what you come up with next time you like do a new band. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's awesome to me, because this is the shit that there's all these other things that we enjoy, but if we were going to if we're going to do that balsamic reduction, if we were going to reduce hardcore down to the thing, that's what we're aiming for to be drizzled over our roasted carrots, is the Straight Edge Youth Crew reduction.
I'm taking it back to the old school because I'm an old fool. I'm taking it back to the old school because I'm an old fool. Yo, what's up, motherfuckers? Old school.
All right, we are going old school, and we are continuing Dan's journey through the Poison Idea catalog. This time around, we are doing the recently re-released 12-inch Get Loaded and Fuck. It just got put out on TKO Records. And we should shout out to Mark from TKO and also Jerry A for getting this on streaming finally. This is a portion of the Poison Idea catalog that has not been on streaming before. So fuck yeah, dude. And also we should shout out to the album title that was Dan's mantra before he heard the Firestorm 7-inch. So there's that as well. Okay, this originally came out as a self-release cassette. And also it has been branded as the Ian Mackay EP. It compiles the Filth Kick 7-inch along with the Getting the Fear 12-inch and one new song on the end. Although if I was going to nitpick this record and say one thing, I would say, so the Filth Kick 7-inch, when it gets put on this comp originally, they lose the damned cover New Rose, which is absolutely fabulous. Poison Idea does a great version of it. It's so good. And I kind of wish this collection would have restored it. It would have been nice to toss it back on there. But minor complaint, the number one thing is this stuff is on streaming and it's in print, so everyone should get it. Dan, what did you think about this coming off the last LP, War All the Time?
Well, eternal thanks to Mark from TKO for blessing you and I with more records. Just what a gent. Okay, so this was formerly named the Ian Mackay EP. He wasn't happy about that, so as he is my Lord and Savior, I cannot comment on this record. No, just kidding, even though he is my Lord and Savior. This thing bangs. What's interesting about this? Well, let's first just start with Hangover Heart Attack. The way that musically smashes right out the gate, but is in doing a constant like build before you even get to the lyrics, and then you get that all right. Is there a better all right ever said on planet Earth? That is just, it's so good. But the music, and I'll categorize all of the songs in this kind of era together with the fact that the soloing you're getting on these songs is so advanced where it is almost Marshmallow coming off the stick for me. But there's so much like groove and bluesiness. And I know that sounds so fucking nose in the air douche, but it is just there, and there is some extreme noodling that is almost the marshmallow falling off the stick. But these solos fill parts of the song like epically. They break up the vocals in such an awesome way. Hangover Heart Attack, that song just smashes right out the gate, goes through. The vocals are incredible. He's really on fire on this song. And then you get that solo, and then it comes back into the way the song starts with that smashing build. And it's just done so amazing. Drug Revival, excellent song. I feel like the recording and the sound that they're at in this era is just a band just so confident of what they are. That they know they are upper echelon of this kind of thing, but they still, of course, love what they're doing. It's not like, it's a band firing on all cylinders with still loving what they're doing and not being on autopilot. Ballad of a Pre-Op. Now, lyrically, this might not age the best, to say the least. But the snottiness of the way that these vocals are delivered and stuff is really good. The song might be a tad too long also. But it, again, contains another fucking just solo that's killing. Now, Getting the Fear. This might be my favorite Poison Idea song that we've come across so far. You know, I love MTB, and this is giving that, and just the vocal delivery on this with that, the amazing attitude in the riff that's matching the vocal and the tempo, everything about this, and then the catchiness of the chorus. Like, what a fucking amazing song. And then the song 4 a.m., absolutely love it. It's really good, but if there was, you know, it just suffers from coming after Getting the Fear for me. You know, it's an amazing song, but that Getting the Fear is just sucking the spotlight a little bit more. And then Burn for the Last Time, that song also just rips, has so much kind of God, we've said charisma so much on this pod, shoot me. But it can't help it when we're talking about so many charismatic vocal performances. It is blazing, attitude-filled, and it's so like fun nihilism and I don't know, it's just great. But for me, out of all of these, Hangover, Heart Attack, and Getting the Fear were my two like real standouts. But Getting the Fear, wow, what a song!
Yeah, I love this stuff. I think it's top-notch Poison Idea, especially, well, there's a few songs I pull off here. I don't love the last record that we talked about, The War All the Time, although I think it's good and only suffers because it's getting matched up against the rest of the Poison Idea catalog. But it's a darker sounding record, and coming out of that, this stuff just sounds so bright. Hangover, Heart Attack, one of the best Poison Idea songs, and the soloing is out of this world. This might be Pig Champion's best solo. He just lets loose in this time. I think that with War All the Time, it's a weird time, right? It's 87, crossovers in full swing, and I think that that album is like kind of put through the crossover filter, even though it's not a crossover record. Like, it's just that is there. And I think that on this stuff, and then of course on the next LP, Feel the Darkness, like they've figured a way that they can play like top-notch music without feeling like they need to fall into any sort of metal tropes. Although there is a lot of soloing, but this soloing is not like garbage speed metal soloing. It's actually really soulful. Like that solo on Drug Revival's out of this world too. Like that might be the second best Pig Champion solo. Yeah, those two songs are great. Ballad of a Pre-Op, it's a pretty big miss, dude, and a rare Jerry A miss. I'd say that the lyrics ruin the song. You know, not even looking at it as like a thing where the lyrics could be problematic. Now they're just kind of like silly in general. And, you know, it's just a song that, like, you know, Guttermouth is like looking at that song and be like, oh, we could do something with this song. You know what I mean? I could base a whole band off that song, you know? So like if you want your song to be like the influence for like the worst of Guttermouth or No Effects or shit, like, you know, I guess this could be a Roots thing for you, but, you know, at their best, Poison Idea is like influencing so much of the best hardcore that's ever happened in the world post Poison Idea. So, you know, they got better stuff to look at there. And yeah, the song's just a bummer because like that mid-tempo riff is so hard, you know, and like the structure of the song is so great. And it's ruined by stupid lyrics, you know, like a lot of songs, you know, Look at My Cat. Why can't I live like that? Shout out Lagwagon. I think that like the Filth Kick 7-inch is really good. I really do wish New Rose was on here because I think it's great too. Getting the Fear and 4 a.m. These are almost a little too biker punk for me. But I am excited that if you love Getting the Fear that much, Dan, I think it's a big like sign of what's to come on the next record. Like I think that they do that kind of stuff, but even better on the next record. And I think that ending the record with that Burn for the Last Time, like if we're talking about like real rocker shit, this is the stuff I love. Like hook me with a lead out the gate, or maybe it's not even a lead, like it's just like a lick, like a guitar lick with like some vocal shit underneath it too. And it sounds so nice. That chorus is catchy as hell. And again, this is just a glimpse of what would come on the next record, Feel the Darkness, when they really lean into stuff like this or like the Getting the Fear type stuff. I love it. And this song, man, I listened to it a few times today. And so, yeah, it's like when I first listened to this stuff, Hangover Heart Attack was the one. And then Burn for the Last Time is the one I've been jamming a lot recently. This is like stuff that I don't know the first time I listened to it, but it wasn't forever ago. You know, like I was pretty much on the main Poison Idea records because they do a bunch of different little 7-inches and EPs and shit. And I don't know if we are going to cover everything. I think we just jump right to Feel the Darkness next. But yeah, this is great stuff. And again, so stoked this on streaming. So stoked everyone can check it out. So that's that.
Is that exciting for you, like to have been listening to a band for so long and then you're like, oh, this is now available for me to listen to while I ride my bike or whatever, and like delve into something of a band that, you know, it's almost like, I don't know, say if Oasis had someone release B-sides come out for me and I'm just like, oh, fuck.
I mean,
like,
I've had it since the Blogspot era. I've just never like fucked with it that much because they have so much material that it's like you just kind of assume that after you've put out LPs, you're not putting out your best material on EPs in between the LPs. You know, like the best songs from the EPs are probably getting chucked onto the LPs. So it's not that I never heard it. It's just that I never really fucked with it and dove into it. But for this exercise, I listened to it more. And really since Mark sent the LP, I've listened to it more. So yeah, that's that. Okay, Dan, what's your Instagram in case people want to reach out?
At Southpaw Instagrammer.
All right, on October 4th, 2024, Chubby and the Gang put out their third LP, And Then There Was, on Flat Spot Records. Joining me on the podcast is Charles Manning, a.k.a. Chubby Charles from Chubby and the Gang. What's up, dude?
How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, doing good. Your first LP, Speed Kills, came out in 2020 and was pretty much universally loved. Was making the second record, The Mutts Nuts, or the third record that you just put out more challenging?
The second one was easier because there was lockdown and there was like a lot less to do in terms of like outside of making a record. Also, like with Speed Kills, I like overwrote for it. So like I usually what I'll do is I'll write like 20 songs and then cut it down. That's why often the records are quite long because like long in terms of like how many tracks are on there, because I'll often sit there and do like, you know, 20 demos in like a little like in my friend's like recording place and just sort of get that done, and then I'll cut like, you know, I can't remember how many was on Speed Kills, but like let's say 7, and then if like 5 of those are good enough to be on the next record, but just don't quite fit on it, like amongst the first record, then I'll just carry them on into the second one. So I've basically got a running start. The third one, you know, like there was I was much more of a grind. There was like I had less resources and you know, like less people around me, and like I was just sort of more on my own with it, which I think actually like allowed me to have a bit of confidence in myself eventually to be like, all right, yeah, I could fucking do this shit. You know what I mean? Like the first one was very much like, I'll write this in my room and then recorded the music, and then I had to like come up with the vocals later, so I had more time to like think about it. The second one I was on a roll, and then the third one I had to kind of like, you know, I don't know, just it was more this recent one is the more difficult one, basically.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it goes beyond you just starting from scratch on this one? Do you think there's pressure following up two really good LPs?
Yeah, I mean, it is hard doing 3 LPs because it's like especially like punk and stuff. There's a lot of hard. It's quite hard to like not repeat yourself. I mean, I'm sure I'm guilty of that as much, like, you know, but there's a lot of like, have I done this before? Have we done that before? Type thing. You know what I mean? Like, there's also like, you know, I'm not really that much of a complicated person, so there's not really a lot for me. Like, I haven't got that much I want to say, like in terms of like to the people. I mean, a lot of it was like, well, fuck, am I going to write another song about going to the pub, or what should I do here, or you know? And then it was like, do people want to hear this bit? Like, do you know what I'm getting at? And I just ended up being like, lyrical topics often can be like quite difficult to like, for me anyway. I don't want to be too self-aggrandizing with it. Do you know what I mean? That kind of shit really pisses me off. So, yeah.
You do everything this time around on the record. I can imagine that one of the challenges with that is like figuring out how to self-edit yourself. How did you deal with that?
Oh, well, so Jonah played drums on it. Jonah Falco, who is the and so basically the way that it was the process, the recording process was, me and Jonah went to this place called Fuzzbrain in London, which is a really good studio. He's got like a place up in Walthamstow, but he's a very close friend of ours. And we demoed these tracks out, basically, just me and Jonah. And we had a lot of time to like think about it, because they start off often as like bedroom recordings, my end. So I'll have like a bedroom recording, but like there's so much stuff with Chubby and the gang. Like there's so many like add-ons, extras, an organ, a fucking harmonica, fucking, you know, do you know what I mean? So it's like that kind of stuff. Like I kind of start working out in my bedroom. Then me and Jonah go to the studio. He'll do a drum track because I'm shit at drums. So like he'll do a drum track, and then we'll start layering it up, and I'll start showing him what I mean, and like he can often be like, this is not working, or wow, that's good, or he has the chops to be able to be like, if I explain something, sometimes if I'm like, look, I want it to sound like this, but I don't understand that bit, he can be like, well, we're doing this, and I'll be like, oh, okay, cool, and then we can sort of like work out from there. And then when we go to the studio to actually record the record itself, we did it up in Station House in Leeds, and the guy who's recording up there is a close friend of mine and Jonah's. Is called Atco, and he's also like he's like musical, he's a wizard, like it really is. Like, so having those two guys around me, like, is very I mean, it's hard to fuck up when you got them two next to you. You know what I mean? Like, it's very hard to fuck it up, but yeah, like having those two around me is like quality. Yeah.
That song that Bonnie Banks on the new record is absolutely fabulous. Like maybe one of the best songs you've written. When in the songwriting process do you know that you have like a special song like that? Or do you even consider songs special, or are they all just like normal ass songs to you?
I was thinking about this today, actually, at work. I was like, how the fuck do I know if something's good or not? And like, I think the thing is, if it stays with me, and it's like I find myself being like thinking about the melody, like outside of like, you know, if I'm at work and I'm like putting up some scaffolding or like whatever, and I'm like, you know, in my head thinking about the song, it's probably good. Like, if it's something that comes and goes, often it can, it's probably not. But you know, fuck, if I knew the answer to that question, I'd be a millionaire. If I knew if a song was good or not, you know what I mean? The way that I try to approach that kind of stuff is like, essentially, everyone loves to smell their own shit, really, don't they? So like, if I shouldn't take my own opinion like so sternly, but also like it's striking a balance between that and believing in it. And I think if you when you believe in something and you're like, right, this is good, you know what I mean? And you have to it's striking a balance between being stubborn with what you know is working and like being malleable enough where you can sort of adapt to, because there was a few times in the studio, like even with that song, where there was bits where I was like, okay, I think this bit can be better. Like, because initially that was written on an acoustic guitar, and it kind of like, I wrote it and I was like, it sounded a bit like campfire songy type thing, and I was like, nah. So then we was like, nah, it needs a fucking beat. This is, I mean, it's like quite a sad, it's like the lyrics quite sad and like the song's quite sad, and I was like, I think like it's like cooking, you know what I mean? You don't want to make something that's just sweet or something that's just sour. You need a little bit of something else with it, you know what I mean? So I just dropped my guitar into the Rolling Stones tuning and just sort of fucking, we just went for it then and was like, wow, that's much better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Speaking of the balance, like when it comes to songwriting, how do you feel about like, you know, some people can just sit down and like hammer out a song, right? Like I'm going to write a song and you do it. There's also like kind of getting into the mindset of it and like almost letting like the song channel through you.
I think it's song dependent. A lot of tunes on the record came out like Cocaine Sunday was like it wasn't very, like the song was, I think the song is a thoughtful song, I guess, but like the actual writing process wasn't that painful. It flowed. You know what I mean? I think that's a good sign. But I also think there's something to be said about working on stuff. But, you know, you can spend like weeks and weeks working on a song and it still turns out shit. Sometimes I feel a little bit like, look, you know, if it's taking us this long, it's probably not really working. And you need to think about like the person who's listening to it rather than you're trying to make this weird fantasy of this song come true. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I think like sometimes, like I said, you know, it's a lot of musicians have a tendency to like, they like to do like musical masturbation sometimes, and I think that stuff, it can be like quite jarring to the listener. So it's about like being like, look, if I was in my truck and this came on, would I keep it on? So do you know what I mean? That kind of, I think that's the kind of questions you need to ask. Like,
how do you feel about this record, and where do you think it stacks up with the rest of the catalog?
Yeah, I feel good. It was quite cathartic. This I went through a pretty rough patch. You know, I've had some ups and downs and that, and this was sort of like happening around that time, and like the writing and stuff. I think I've sort of started listening back to the record a little bit and being like, there's a lot of like themes about like loneliness and things like that, and like and like, you know, that was something that I was definitely feeling at the time, and so I felt good. I mean, I feel very good that it's come out, and I thought it'd never fucking happen at one point, but yeah, I feel great. Where it ranks amongst the others, like, I don't know, man. I like Speed Kills because it was the first one, and it was kind of like a happy accident for me. And like, you know, I put like, and I like this one because it took a lot of effort. So there's kind of like the opposites, you know. Speed Kills kind of like fell out of the sky kind of thing, and this one was like a very, very much a grind. Not a grind because that sounds like it's not the right word I'm looking for, but it was certainly like a thing that I worked on. You know, I sat there and I like had a point to prove, and like I wanted to like show people that like, yeah, I'm not just like a fucking one trick pony, or like, you know, I think a lot of people like I don't know, I felt like people weren't really, I don't know, I wanted to prove myself as a songwriter, do you know what I mean? And be like, look, I can fucking write tunes, you know what I mean? Here. Basically, I don't know. I don't. It's not a big. I write music like to try and sort of like level myself out a little bit, and like then the album comes out of a process of that, rather than like, you know, it's a bit therapeutic for me rather than like necessarily trying to fucking better something or worse. You know what I mean? It's like it's sort of just like I'm just getting more comfortable in myself, so it comes out better, I think. Anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the record's fabulous, and I think that, you know, Speed Kills is kind of, it's a wild record, right? Again, universally loved, so aggressive, but still like melodic. And the second one, I think some of the melody was stripped out of like the faster songs. But you still have like the big like Billy Bragg-esque like ballads on there to like kind of balance it out. And this one, you're able to tuck the melody back into the faster songs well. And then also like go kind of over the top with the songs like the Bonnie Banks, where you're doing kind of almost ballady songs, but with drums. Like it's still rocking. So I think it's a fabulous accomplishment.
The thing is, man, like, you know, like, I mean, Speed Kills I was left to my own devices because the band hadn't started yet, you know, like I wrote it all like without any real band like input. And then I think like overnight the band sort of like blew up or whatever, or people started taking, not blow up, but because we were never like a big band, but like sort of people started taking notice. And then like all of a sudden everyone wants to stick their oar in and be like, oh yeah, you know why this is good is because of this and because of this. And I kind of started like, when the second one started kind of like losing control of the steering wheel a little bit, people started like telling me what to do a little bit. And I was like, felt a little bit like, well, I don't know, I'm not sure about this one. I sort of want to do it this way. And people were sort of being like, no, and like a lot of people like throwing their input in. And then on this one, the third one, no one, like even if someone wanted to tell me something, no one could. And that's the important thing about having Jonah and Atco next to me, is that I listen to them, but I won't listen to a lot of other people. Like, and I think that's what kind of connects the first and the third, is like, yeah, no one could have told me how to write that any different. You know what I mean?
What was the first punk or hardcore band or record that you fell in love with?
Ramones, for sure. Like Ramones was a band that I got into. Like I was showing them as a kid, and it was before I really understood what punk was. But so to me, it was just like, and I mean this in the most respectful way possible. To me, it was a pop record. You know what I mean? Like I loved all the melodies and stuff. And then when I started getting old enough to like really understand the lyrics and stuff, it's like they have sort of this like this thing that I tried to replicate with Chubby and the Gang, which is like, you know, a lot of sweet, but they've got this sour to it as well. You know what I mean? Like KKK Took My Baby Away is like, you think about that, you're like, fucking, it's kind of insane that someone wrote that. You know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, I think that kind of stuff makes it like really interesting songs. Like, you know, like you're saying about Bonnie Banks, is like, it's like if you read the lyrics, you'd think it'd be some sort of like finger picked like acoustic sad boy thing, you know. But it's like when you listen to it, if you took the lyrics away, it sounds like fucking like a glam rock song or something almost. You know what I mean? So yeah, I like the contrast. I think it's important for songs to have at least a little bit of contrast. You know what I mean? Especially for an album needs contrast on it, and that's why there's so many tunes in it, because I tried to make it so that there's like a kind of like, I was about to say a song for every occasion, but that's not what I mean, you know.
Yeah,
like, I don't think anyone's playing any Chubby and the Gang songs at their fucking wedding, but put it like that.
You never know.
Yeah, fuck.
Well, where did you go beyond the Ramones? Like, what was step 2 for you?
Yeah, because like, well, like there was my parents were into punk, so like there was punk floating around in my house and shit. But I really sort of started coming into like, I started like really understanding music and started like seeking out music, and like got into like hardcore and like Discharge and like Voorhees and stuff like that, where like a bit more like, I don't want to say underground, but like slightly less known than like the Sex Pistols or whatever. And then I went to a hardcore show and then just sort of fell in love with that. And then There's like there was these Ruction nights that were put on in London that they used to have a showcase of all these different style of punk bands and hardcore bands, which I used to really love going to. And that kind of, I don't know, I don't really kind of just like gradually ended up just like falling in with people who just were into like punk and not the normal shit, you know. I didn't ever feel like I belonged on the normal music world or whatever. Do you know?
Yeah. So you get into the Ramones as your first punk band, and now you're in your mid-30s and you've been into punk for a minute. What do you think, dude? First Ramones record versus Sex Pistols, never mind the Bullocks. Being a Londoner, right? So this is important.
Did you say what's better, Ramones or Pistols?
Yeah, first record versus first record.
I'd take the Ramones all day long, man.
I love it.
All day long. Yeah. Because to me, like, I don't know, man. There's just so much stuff just came off the. I mean, obviously, fucking Pistols did the sort of the blueprint, if you will. But like, I think like Ramones, like, there's just something a bit more organic about it. There's something a little bit less, like, there's something a little bit less, like, how can I put this? Like, the Pistols, like, it was a little too theatrical for me, you know, a little too showing off type thing. And like, I love Pistols and that, but you know, Ramones to me felt like some geezers in a basement fucking just going for it, which I loved. You know what I mean? I think there's a thing where it's like there's less of a. I feel like like when you listen to that, there's less of a gap between you and them almost. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm Ramones over Pistols. Although I do think that like in capital H hardcore, that Sex Pistols record is like never reached for. And like it's fabulous. It's one of the greatest rock and roll records of all time.
Yeah, let me just clarify that the Pistols record. Like, this is not me being like, oh, I don't like the Pistols because it's the fucking Pistols. Like, but yeah, no, I'm with you, man. Like a lot of people, but I think it gets overlooked. You know, like Bodies as a song is a hard song.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like there's some. I think they're a victim of their own success as well. Pistols sometimes, you know, it's like. I think Misfits are like that as well, where it's like you see people with a shirt, you see the posters everywhere, you see the fucking whatever. So you just sort of like go, nah. Ramones are like that as well, actually. You see people in Ramones t-shirts all the time. Less so nowadays, but like there was a time when like every cunt and his dog had a fucking Ramones t-shirt on. And then you're like, yeah, I don't know. And then you listen to it and you're like, oh, fuck. Like if you listen to the Misfits, you're like, God damn. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those popular shirt bands were like that, right? The Exploited, you know, you could
too, right?
Yeah, you could totally think like, oh, a Kid in an Exploited shirt, that's like a mall punk, right? But Jesus Christ, like those first handful of Exploited records are amazing.
UK82 and all that tune, like when I first heard that song, I fucking sat there and I learned it because I was like, this riff is amazing, and I've written so many riffs based around that one song UK82 by Exploited. You know what I mean? So it's like, but again, like you said, I think sometimes they're these bands are like a sort of victim of their own success, where like you could, if you didn't hear them, you could be mistaken like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a great call out, like the UK82, because like you're talking about a song so important it sets off like an entire genre. You know, gets coined. You know,
it's unbelievable. It's like, in my opinion, it's like one of the best songs ever written.
Yeah. So sick. Hey, when you started Chubby and the Gang, what were you setting out to do?
So I basically wanted to do something that I was big on the Chiswick Records thing, like Motorhead, Motor Damned, all like, you know, all that kind of stuff. Johnny Moped, and I was just like, I'd like to do just like a sort of amalgamation of all that shit just together as one thing. So, like, you know, like at the time, I've been doing hardcore bands and punk bands and shit for a long time. And like, I started getting sort of like bored of myself a little bit, where I was like, man, how many times can I fucking write a fucking hardcore song that goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever, you know? So I was just like, I want to do something where I can put an organ in it. And I want to do
Yeah.
something. Do you know what I mean? I want to have some oohs and ahs in the backing vocals and shit. So I just wanted to like do something different. That's where the artwork came from as well, because like the artwork, the whole point of that artwork, like my friend Spoiler, who did it, who's obviously very talented, like I said to him, like, look, man, take it. I want it as far away from a black and white cover as possible. I want it to be fun. I want it to be chaotic. Put as much shit in there as possible. Like, you know, just like I want it to be yellow, red, blue, and you know what I mean. I don't want any like skulls and daggers and like aggressive shit, because like I feel like with that kind of shit, like Empty Vessel sounds the loudest. You don't need to. Whenever I hear someone being like grrr, like all this aggressive shit, I just think, sure, mate, whatever. So like I wanted to be like fun, you know what I mean? Like the whole point of music is supposed to be fucking fun. Like, and I felt like everyone was so like was that fucking like everyone was just so like, I don't know, too cool for school type thing. I thought, fuck this, man. You know?
The Johnny Moped call out's great because his first record's excellent. And actually, that record he put out in 2016 is really good.
Oh, really? I've not checked it out. Is it any good?
Yeah, it's good. And he looks sick. He's all old on the cover, but like, I think he's still rocking leather and spikes. You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck?
I'd expect nothing less, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Hey, we're like 10 years out now from the scene that was referred to as the new wave of British hardcore, which you were involved in. You were in the band Violent Reaction. Looking back on that now, like 10 years removed, what do you think the legacy of that scene was?
It's an interesting point, because at the time, like, people really didn't like it at the time. In fact, people fucking hated it. And we used to, like, it was very much like no one likes us, I don't fucking give a shit type thing, you know, like, and we were like almost setting out to like sort of like ruffle feathers. Like we were like, you know, like I don't want to be like, oh, we influence stuff, because I don't know about that kind of shit, but I do know that, like, you know, at the time there was a lot of like very good bands coming out of that of our world that was like actually kind of quite overlooked at the time, but now are getting a bit of a like, you know, like Violent Reaction at the time, like people, especially in the UK, they were just sort of like, what's this? I don't give a shit type thing, you know. And then sort of like later in the journey, it started to get a bit more like attention type thing. So I don't know, man, but like it's only recently that people have really started to give a shit about that, which is, you know, cool. But yeah, because we were playing to fucking no one in the UK. There were hardly any companies showing up to gigs. So yeah, I
mean, locally, right? Locally,
yeah.
You still got on Revelation like within a couple years.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I'm talking about like within the UK, like I think with that kind of stuff, like when being in, I think a lot of Americans appreciated it more at the time. Like now, people sort of like seem to be more open to it, but like I'm talking about specifically within the UK, like people were just like don't care. But like in America, we got a lot of love. You know, there was that Damage City Fest. They used to always put us on. We had like used to like tour with a lot of like of DFJ's bands and stuff like that, which was cool. Like a lot of people that we looked up to, and that was all great. Like it was fun. Caused a lot of trouble. Had a lot of good times. You know. It's great, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that like it's getting its love there now just because like it's new kids, like it's like one generation removed, so they don't have a direct connection to it?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm not really that sure. We sort of were like doing it for us, like in the sense that like, you know, like we just made music because like we were all mates and we had fuck all else to do. Do you know what I mean? So, and not a lot of like crazy thought went into it. And it's like, it's part of like this sort of like DIY punk and hardcore scene is that you end up it's not really a spectator sport. You get involved, you know. So we were just everyone in it loved the music and like the culture and all that jazz. So we partook in it, and that was it. Like really, you know, like we just, you know, you do. I had nothing else going on, so it was like kind of, you know, kept me out of trouble and let me do something. I'm very grateful for those years, honestly. Like I look back on it now and I think like if I'd have known what I was doing, like not that I would have acted any differently, but like I was just like, I'm very grateful. At the time we were just doing it and being like, yeah, this sounds good, fuck it, yeah. You know what I mean? There's very little like I don't know. It's just sort of just, yeah, I don't know. It's funny when people ask about new wave of British hardcore because I know I didn't really think about it that much, really. So,
well, we're gonna keep talking about it. We're gonna make the Mount Rushmore of the new wave of British hardcore. Who do you think is on it? Top 4.
So I would put the Flex up there, like starting straight out of the Flex. The reason why I say the Flex is, I mean, obviously they're an amazing band, like, you know, all that. But for me, prior to the Flex, there was a bunch of small scenes in the UK. A lot of them didn't really get on with each other. There was a lot of like infighting, and there was a lot of like there was just nothing really happening. And then new wave of British hardcore bands started popping up and people started to take notice of it. Like I'm talking about within the UK, and they were the band that really drew everyone together. So like I remember a specific gig, I think it's at Joseph's Wells, is the name of the venue, but there was a gig when all these different cities came to see the Flex, and all these different guys came down. Like we drove up from London. There was probably about 15 of us, and then, you know, there was like guys come from Newcastle and fucking Wales and Manchester and all these different places. And then like I remember like looking around the room and being like, because I'd already been involved in the hardcore scene at this point for a minute. So I remember looking around the room and being like, holy shit, like this has changed now. This is it's its own thing now. You know what I mean?
So sick.
Yeah, I remember at that moment looking around a bit, like being in the pit, like mid pit, just being like, oh shit, like because usually before that it was a little bit quieter. Like there was people would kind of go off, and but this was like on a major. This wasn't like not major, but it was like a big stage. That band New Lows played, and there was like all these like great bands that were playing, but the Flex they were like one of the best bands of the night, and like prior to that, a lot of UK bands like would struggle to get reactions and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they just like basically showed up and took it, which was fucking fantastic. What? How many people are on Mount Rushmore? 4 or 5?
4.
4. Okay. So I say them. I say this band called Think Twice, who had 1 7-inch, but again, they were on the same gig where I was like, holy shit, all right, everyone's in on this. Like this is becoming its own thing. I mean, I guess
you got to do it, dude. It's got to be Violent Reaction. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, Violent
you
Reaction,
feel weird about it because you're connected to it, but it is.
I was actually going to say I would put Violent Reaction up there for sure, because Pimmy was like one of the main driving forces within the whole thing, and you have to show respect where respect is due. Sure. But the other one I was going to say is Arms Race, because it coined the term, and it put it down in writing, basically. Like that was the first time that someone had said new wave of British hardcore on paper, and like then it sort of snowballed. I wouldn't say it was snowballed from there, but it definitely helped like give it an identity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you put a stamp on it, right?
Yeah, for sure. But Violent Reaction definitely, like, I mean, Pimmy, who was like the sort of the mastermind behind Violent Reaction, he if you look at his what's the word, CV or whatever, I don't know what you want to call it, but like the bands that he's been in or whatever, he has like a major role to play in the entire thing. So I would definitely put Violent Reaction on it. But yeah, so that would be the Flex, Think Twice, Violent Reaction, and Arms Race, I'd say. There's a bunch of other bands that I'm missing out, but like, yeah, there was some good. I mean, this band Obstruct as well, I think is criminally overlooked. Obstruct, they were like, similar style, but I mean, I think they were one of the best, but yeah.
So are you going to fill out a band and try to tour off this record at all? What's the plan for Chubby?
Yeah. Got a tour coming up in, it's November. So mid-November. And then I think Chubby's looking to come to the States like June next year. And yeah, we're just going to try and do as much as we can, really. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to like do a lot of Chubby stuff, gig as much as possible. Trying to, I like being on the road. So I don't like the stillness when I get home. So I like to tour. So I'll be out and doing as much as I can, really.
Well, if Chubby and the Gang broke up today, what do you think the legacy of the band would be?
Oh man, that's I tried to be as existential as possible about everything and just be like, look, I'm here. Give it another 30 years. I'm going to be nothing but dust. So fuck it. I'm having a good time. Enjoy it. If it gets forgotten tomorrow, shit, is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel you. Chubby and the Gang, and then there was LP came out on Flat Spot Records October 4th, 2024. Everyone, buy it, stream it, handle business. You know what's up. Chubby, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
If you want to get at the podcast, it is 185milessouth@gmail.com. I respond to everyone. Also, we're on all the socials, Instagram, Threads, Twitter. Also, I write a Substack. So it is 185milessouth.substack.com. And I write about punk and hardcore once or twice a month. But I'm getting pretty burnt out, so who knows how long that's going to be around. Also, we got the website, 185milessouth.com. It's got links to everything. There's also a playlist for every episode. You can click that playlist link at the top of the page, or you can find us on Spotify. And finally, the Patreons are the people that keep this podcast alive. I love each and every one of them. If you want to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/185milessouth. Everyone, we'll talk to you again next Monday behind the dreaded paywall. So smash that Patreon button and let's talk next Monday. Peace.
1, 2, 3, 4.